All right. There is one caveat, as I mentioned. When you're doing the matrix multiplication, what number would you use if there was a variable missing? Like, for example, if you had 3x plus 4z equals -5, and you were writing it in general form, what variable is missing there? Your y. What would you put there as your coefficient? Very good. You would have to put a placeholder that still is correct. In this case, it would be a 0. So your entry into your matrix would be a 0. Okay, so if you ever have missing locations or missing variables, you need to enter a 0 there into the matrix. Okay, keep that in mind. Now that's just an easy way to solve linear systems using your calculator, using matrix multiplication. The problem is that it only works with linear systems. Linear quadratic systems cannot be solved using a matrix equation. Linear quadratics cannot be solved using a matrix equation. But can they still be solved using the calculator? Yeah, they can. Let's review. All right, we know this is a linear system because I have an x to the first and I have an x to the second. So it's a linear quadratic system. Remember, for linear quadratic systems, you always want to solve both for y. Okay, you want to solve them both for y. So let's do that. We get y equals positive 2x minus 2, and we get y equals x squared minus x minus 6. That writes it in descending order. Now, if you were to proceed by hand, you would set them equal to each other. You would get everything on one side and set it equal to 0. You would factor, and you'd get two values of x. And then you would take each of those x values and you'd plug it into probably the first equation because it's easier. And you'd find the corresponding y value. Okay? But as some people on the last quiz knew, hey, I don't know how to solve it algebraically, but I do know that I can find where they intersect on the calculator. So let's review that real quickly. Okay, so a calculator to solve it, you can solve any system this way as long as you can solve them for y. You graph one of them in y1, so that's 2x minus 2. And then you graph the other one in y2, which is x squared minus x minus 6. And then you hit zoom 6. Zoom 6 is your standard viewing window. And you can see that there's 2 points of intersection. They occur in quadrants 1 and quadrants 3. And then how would we find them? So the solutions are second trace number what? Second trace number, I don't think you had the squared. Did you have x squared? You need to put x squared minus, you put a negative symbol there. It should be minus. Keep going. One more. That should be the minus button, not the negative symbol. There you go. And then do the same thing with the 6. That should be minus 6. Otherwise, it treats it as multiplication. Now hit graph. Yeah. Whenever you're leading with the negative, you have to use the negative button down there on the bottom. But if it's a negative symbol on the interior, use the minus sign. So second trace number what? Number 5. Okay. Enter, enter, enter. It finds the first one. -1, -4. And the second one, second trace number 5. Enter, enter. Now we just scroll closer to the one that we haven't found yet. Otherwise, it finds the other one again. You hit enter, and there it is, 4, 6. Now, if that second point of intersection had been up and to the right off the screen, all you have to do is adjust your window, like change your X max to be like 20 and change your Y max to be like 20, and then you get a little more up in the upper right-hand corner until you see it. Or you could just hit trace. Watch this. If I hit the trace button and I hold it down, as soon as I go off the screen, what's going to happen? It starts sliding over automatically. Okay, so you could do that as well. You don't have to see the Y values, but you do have to see the X values where it happens. See, you could scroll over and get it in the center that way. But anyway, those are nice integers, so that's the other way to find it. 2 points of intersection using the calculator. And then that's not matrix multiplication because it's a linear quadratic system. So this is just a review question that we did. Do you want to review how to do it by hand, or are you okay with by hand? We should probably review by hand. Let's review that real quickly. So I have 2x minus 2. I would set it equal to x squared minus x minus 6. Now I'm going to get everything over on the right-hand side. and I get x squared minus x minus 6 minus 2x plus 2 equals 0. And then I can combine like terms. I get x squared minus 3x. I'm going to have a minus 6 plus 2, that's minus 4. And then it equals 0. That factors into x minus 4. X plus 1 equals 0. And then remember, this is where some people get all this way and then they mess up. If x minus 4 is the factor, what's the corresponding root? Positive 4, right? And if x plus 1 is the factor, what's the corresponding root? Negative 1. Yeah. Now you take both of those one at a time and you plug them into either equation. I think it's easier to plug it into the linear equation because it's just a simpler equation. So we'll say at x equals 4. You plug it in, you get y equals 8 minus 2, which is 6. So you get the 0.46. And then you say at x equals negative 1. You plug it in, and you get negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. And you get the point negative 1, negative 4. So that's how you do it by hand. All right, but today's lesson is all about using the calculator and the matrix multiplication technique. A inverse B. A inverse B. A little bit of housekeeping on the beginning. Put it in the nice A, X, B, Y, C, Z equals constant form. Matrix A is the coefficient matrix. Matrix B is the constant matrix. A inverse B. Boom, you have your answers. Yes, questions? Absolutely. Any other questions? You have the rest of the period to work on your homework. You might be able to get most of it done. Tomorrow you have the entire class also to work on your homework, but when you finish, you might want to start preparing for the Chapter 6 quiz, which is over everything that we've covered in Chapter 6 so far. And then we'll quiz on Wednesday, review the whole chapter again on Thursday for the test, which will be on Friday. Okay, we